Thank you all for coming. It's lovely to see you all. So most of you know who I am. My name is Lisa Karran. I have spent most of my career, certainly nearly 20 years, working with founder-led businesses in marketing and operations. And I have encountered a lot of the same problem over and over again. So I now work in COO or NED roles across operations usually, and in a fractional sense. So I usually work for several different companies at the same time. And there is a repeat pattern. And that's why I came up with this system. It's not anything groundbreaking. It's just a system to help people break through the chaos that can occur when you get some growth in a founder-led business, and how you can diagnose that to move forward. So this isn't about problem solving necessarily. It's about diagnosis. It's about understanding actually what the problem is to begin with, so that you can then focus on a solution which would obviously come later. I offer this as a full review product. So this is a mini diagnostic session that we're going to whiz through at a very high level, but hopefully will be useful for you to perhaps think differently about your business, think about what might be the things that will trip you up soon or later down the road. And what you need to think about during this session, because you guys are going to do all the work, is what's happening now, not what you intended to happen, but what is actually happening, the reality of today, which is, is a bit of self-reflection, a bit of internal auditing, I guess. So it's a way to spot the structural strain before it really starts to cause issues. I've worked in several businesses where we've literally been at we're selling the business stage. We're in a war room where you have to provide all your due diligence, and something is missing. A contract, an important contract, and that really is a problem at that stage, and it's a total deal breaker. And in fact, in one of the businesses that I was working in, it did break the deal because there wasn't a contract in place with a rather important customer. And so you don't want that to happen. But it can also be simple things like one of your team members goes on holiday and no one knows where something is. It can be small things too. So what you should leave with is a score across 5 core operational pillars, and a clearer view of where dependency sits. It's usually on you if you're all founders. It's usually with a founder, or there's usually a lot of dependency around a founder. And perhaps a short list of the risks that are most likely to cause a problem, most likely to slow your growth, so that you can then think about what your priorities are to solve in the near future. So I'm hoping that's what you'll all leave with. So I've really touched on already why growth creates operational strain. You've got a team of 3 people. It's very easy for you all to know what's going on. When you put another 10 people into that business, you perhaps haven't shared that bit of information with them, or shown them where that thing is stored, or told them what your policy is, because it's in everyone's heads, of how you deal with X, Y, and Z. And that's why growth creates chaos, because things are not codified, things are not systemized, things are not processes. And these are the things that founders usually hate as well. And that's why they never get done. And that's the sort of work that I've spent most of my career doing, is actually filling those gaps in and coming up behind a founder and putting those things in place that are boring, that do we really need that? Well, we don't need it until we need it. So we're going to quickly look through the model that I use, that I've come up with through my experience, and then the main bulk of the session will be walking you through this self-audit, where we'll go through all those 5 areas and just poke holes in it so that you can get some idea of where those issues are. Hopefully some of you will be prepared to share a little bit. If not, just with your neighbour maybe. And then we're going to pressure test that and hopefully get some prioritisation and next steps for you to move forward. So let's look at the system that we're going to use, which is my model. There are other models, you know, I'm sure you'll have heard of balanced scorecard and things like that. There's lots of different models that you can use. This is what I've come up with based on working with startups and founders that I find to be useful. So how work gets done. This is about process architecture. It's about how things get delivered. How do you go from committing to a sale to customer service, feedback, etc. Who owns what is about role and decision clarity. So who is allowed to make a decision about what, and does everybody know that? How the business is measured. So, you know, what metrics have you got in place? How are you actually reporting? How often are you looking at your reporting? Are you looking at the right thing? How the business runs is basically your cadence. You know, what meetings are you having? Are you having board meetings? Are you documenting your board meetings? And how the business is protected, which is all the paperwork, the contracts, the data handling, might be your GDPR, etc. Your governance side of things. So that's the model that we're kind of basing it on. The scoring matrix is also on your sheets on the front page, but this is what you're going to use. So you need to score each question. So 1 is it's completely absent, it doesn't exist. 2 is emerging, so that might mean you've talked about it, it's on the list of things to do, or you've started it, maybe it's draft. 3 is it's actually something is there and is being used and, you know, is being operated, it's installed. 4, you think that it can move with the times as you get a bit bigger. And 5 is mature, it's in place, it's established, it's been tested, you think it works. So it's up to you to give each area its score based on that, and be honest about it, because this is to help your business. It's not to highlight errors. Most startups go through chaos at some stage, usually when they get some growth. So we accept that, but put in a framework and a structure and some concrete pinnings underneath will help quicker growth, in fact, and potential exit, whatever that may look like. So guided self-audit then. I'm getting a little timer out. So on your worksheet, you'll see various sets of questions. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to review each question and to give it a score, and perhaps have a chat for a minute with your neighbour about your feelings on that and what you've come up with, and to capture that point of friction. And then maybe when we've done each question, we'll see if anybody wants to throw anything out. Does that sound good?
So this is 3 minutes just for the front page for one of
For each question.
3 minutes per question.
Per question.
So you can take off.
Everybody good? Yeah. Do you want to start with the first question, which is process architecture? How consistently does work move from sale to delivery?
Mm.
So if a new person came into your business next week, how would they understand how that works? Would there be an obvious system? Does it rely on people knowing in their head what's happening and having an unspoken process?
Yeah, priority column, like
Low, medium, high.
yeah, so
You
like
might-
out of the five,
can
what
come
do we
back.
focus on the most?
Yeah, you can come back to that probably
Okay,
at the end
yeah.
once you've got, because you'll identify as you go through that some things are going to be more important than others.
All right.
You're looking very studious still. Has anyone got anything to share?
Reason why things I've been involved with have been like online services. Instead of the sale, is like, does someone subscribe to the service? And the product is like this sort of technical feature that we think of and put online. So it's not like
How does it get from somebody asking for something
it's not,
to it getting built, to being
it's
delivered?
not bespoke, it's like it's a service that we've designed.
Okay, so it's just automatically delivered.
Yeah, well, it's like, yeah.
Okay, well that's not a problem then, is it? It's not it's not going to be an issue. It's not
The problem
stopping.
is it's that each sort of feature takes sort of a couple of iterations to like sort of refine. And then even if we decided that it's worth going in, it's going to take more iterations to sort of like debug and things like that. I mean, is it implemented in the right way? Is it scalable?
Ah,
Does it have the right UI?
So actually, it is amended. Then it's not
Oh yeah,
a completely.
it's not a one-off.
It's not an off the shelf.
It's all of these things.
So what is the process that supports that? So you have some sort of needs capture that goes into the development team.
Kind of, yeah.
That's what we're looking for, is the problems in that process. Where are the gaps? Where are the handoffs to different people or different teams?
Sure. I mean, the product we're developing is based on like personal experiences of someone like myself. So it's like a two-way plan. So I've got my sort of first-hand knowledge of the problems that we're trying to solve.
Right.
Just how the idea of the startup came about. Yeah.
So is the issue then you can't replicate yourself?
There are others like me. I can't replicate myself in the team, but There are others like me that have properties in doubt.
Right. I think what we're trying to get at is any issues going from commitment to buy to delivery of product, and what the process, the operational processes are without that. So the documentation, the hands-offs, how does things get prioritised?
That's
How
right.
do you decide what gets done first?
That's right. I mean, also myself and the path is to go through discussions to see like would this feature be beneficial or would it get in the way? I mean, those were double check or is feature creep.
Yes.
So it's tempting to just put things in because it seems like a good idea. It really helps products to depend on time.
Could you set a policy for any of that, so that you don't need to keep having the same discussion over and over again?
Well, not really, no, because once we sort of discuss like a particular feature or a particular aspect, that goes in, and then like on to the next thing. What else can we do to refine it? What other features can we put in? And it's like market research. What sort of features do you think?
But is that process scalable?
We certainly have other people in the team to sort of help us with this process, but you would grow, it doesn't catch the growth of communication. So it sort of reaches a point where, and in more people, you make it better at structuring the team.
Yeah.
And as many sort of startups are, it's like the founders also developers of the product.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, where do we go from here?
But you become bottleneck. You
Yeah.
become a bottleneck. Yeah. And that's partly what we're.
Yeah.
That is one of the big issues that startups always have.
Yeah. I mean, we're sort of like this development phase. Like this push it why it's like, well, okay, it's like what other stuff do we need? What sort of things?
But you also need to be able to enable them to do the job that you bring them in.
That's right. So we need to have like onboarding processes, work with the processes.
Precisely. Yeah.
We sort of think about compliance, things like that. But we need to have like maybe a member of staff dedicated to that kind of thing.
You disagree?
No. I think it's interesting because the business model relies large on subcontracting.
Mhm.
So they really create bottlenecks. It's also equally scalable in the sense that as long as you're communicating it effectively to subcontractors,
Oh, okay.
make sure you're
Having
covering
that
that all.
all this
But it is that's the challenge now. So they often goes through
Yeah.
it's how to get the pressure on the bottleneck and also how to get on subcontractors. It's less easy.
So it's treating it all like how interesting to see.
Anyone else want to share?
That's the big part.
Yeah, I'm very much just one person company. I run like a video game studio, so similar to that, we're doing like software.
Yeah.
It releases like every single week. I rely a lot on like contractors and contracting out a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I guess like that comes into like risk in a way. But
You could also still codify and set policies for certain things so that it's easier for you to communicate with
yeah,
subcontractors.
yeah, for sure. And then a lot of things like KPIs just
Yeah.
aren't established or anything
Of course.
like that. Yeah.
Should we move on to question 2 then? Role and, because we spent 10 minutes on that. Role and decision clarity. So how clear is ownership across the business? And obviously not whether you own the company. Who owns what in terms of decision making? Do people have a budget to spend? Does everything have to come through you? They want to buy some paper for a printer. Do you have to sign that off? Yes, is your answer, isn't it? But if you when you start to build a team, it's important to give people some boundaries and guardrails, because the more more of that you give them, the better job they'll do, because they understand exactly what's expected, what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do, what they need to come to you with, but also that it's not just a replication of you doing it anyway. So that's what this question is about. So what decisions still come through you personally? Is there any blurred ownership? What's the bottleneck? Is that stopping growth? Because it quite often does. And it can also prevent good customer service and good relationships with clients. If you're waiting for someone else to make a decision about something and they're overwhelmed, then you're not moving forward and anything, nothing's getting done. And all before you know it, you've got annoyed customers, annoyed staff.
But yeah. Yeah. Well,
But does he know who makes decisions about what?
yeah. Well, I am really pushing it. So, perfect. That's an ambition. So I think it's um, and then just the general board meetings. They weren't in the board meetings though.
Yeah.
But I was able to then convey what the board wanted them to do. And I do miss that.
Yeah.
But that's what's good, yeah.
But it's important to tell people to give people, structure in terms of what the expectations are, as much as it is to empower them, because actually people can really struggle with it. It's just endless. They just think that they're just doing your job for you then. So, setting it out clearly, this is where the boundary is. This is where I expect you to stop. And, you refer that to me. That helps people, because then they feel freedom within what they've been entrusted to do, and know clearly where they bring it to you and go, help.
For the Johnson, we signed a contract to deliver Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids to Carlton TV. So there was a line, a date, and I had to sign on that. And the penalty was £500,000 if it wasn't
Ouch.
because they took the airtime.
Mm.
So it's very important that I then told the staff about how much they had to produce each day. So that
Keep
I
them on
knew that we were
target.
going to hit that target.
Exactly.
I had to grow up that day.
Yeah. Did you make it?
We made it with 2 months to spare.
No. They gave you too long.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to share anything on this one? All too quiet. We're moving on to role and decision clarity then. So, KPI and reporting discipline. Now, this applies even if you're a one-man band, because it's what measurement are you using to say I'm successful or not? You know, is it how much money I've got in the bank? Is it how much sales I've got? It's equally as important to look at that, even if you're just on your own. So what are you tracking, and how regularly are you looking at it? And where do you perhaps lack visibility? So you might be saying, we've got amazing sales, but you're not looking at your costs. Simple, but you'd be surprised at how many people do it. And that helps make decisions. So you're not relying so much on intuition, but you're relying on fact, because you can see what what sales you're making, what costs you've got, and perhaps make decisions about what contracts to move forward with, what sort of work makes the most money, where the best margin is, all those sort of things come into understanding that information. So question 3 then. Yeah. Well, in a company that's more than one person, you would generally, have some sort of monthly reporting or cyclical, where you're looking at, what's happened in the last period. Whether you're on target.
Even if you're one person business, it's just kind of give an idea of where you've improved, where you've dropped.
And try and forecast.
Yeah.
And you might notice, trends, might be time of year or, different seasons or whatever that is affecting your bottom line. Anyone want to share anything on that?
Like I say, I realise that I do these things on a regular basis. I'm quite a small team, but I just put it on the back of a notepad. I just check at the end of the month when I send an invoice, is this profitable? And I realise I need to report it a lot better so that I can see a bigger picture over years, over months, rather than just the checks. This is a priority for me too.
And also you can share some of that with the team, because it's motivational.
Yeah.
If they see that, you've had a really good month, you should be telling them about that.
It's so true.
It's the essence, right? You make sure you repeat the same thing over.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Or do you repeat the same thing over?
Yeah. There could be a contract where you've lost money because there was an error or there was a contract mistake or whatever it is. That's an important not to repeat, isn't it?
Especially with things like scope creep in a contracts. It happens so subtly.
Slightly now.
Yeah.
Are we done with that one then? So pillar 4 is governance and risk hygiene. So where are you relying on informal ways of working that could create risks? So have you got a standard contract? Are you getting it signed? Are you just sending it out and not chasing up the executed copy and filing it down? Are you not signing it yourself? Is there some compliance risk? And data protection. Do you have a data protection policy? Do you know when you're supposed to get rid of your data that you've collected from your customers? Your disposal policy. I mean, that's quite a detailed, going down to detailed level. So, is quite a risk. GDPR's got some nasty fans. How is your onboarding procedure? Is it standard? Is it off the cuff? Is it on WhatsApp? Are you collecting documents? Do you need to collect documents? Do you need to verify people's identity? Should you be verifying people's identity? Do you verify who the company is that you're contracting with? So I had a recent example where a company that I work for, we were signing a contract with an introducer, and I just looked at the company and it was in default with the regulator, which is not great. Don't want to really sign a contract with that company. It wasn't a major thing. They solved it and then we went ahead, but it is a risk. Contracts founders typically hate. Everything's written on the back of the fag packet. Yeah. Well, it's not a fag packet anymore, is it? It's a bill of map. Yeah. These things are onerous sometimes, but if you have a process, it actually becomes less onerous. Because then people are not moaning and groaning about paperwork, it just gets done. You can automate so much now, it can just be done really easy.
Just because you automate something, it doesn't mean the client does.
Well, that's true.
That's
true. Yeah, but it's not your problem then. That's it. You're not.
If they don't sign,
Well, yes,
they
but
say to do it. That's what we're finding. So
Right.
we standardised a lot of our stuff, and we have given a lot of trust to the clients to be able to go and implement what they should be on the time frame that they should be, rather than doing things like actually customising it to them to break it down to their level. So I suppose we've standardised a lot of it, but we still need to do a lot of custom work per client because our clients are huge.
yeah,
But we only need a few of them. But actually putting things like financial penalties in place is something we've had to do so much more recently. And I would say in terms of actual safeguarding and stuff, we still are not. That's my weakest part, because GDPR and all that kind of thing just makes it super, super hard to do. We work at the airlines.
yeah.
So airlines fine, so each individual place have their own rules,
Mhm.
their own taxes, everything like that.
Yes,
And the airlines don't help you out with that because they don't know themselves.
no.
Yeah.
So a lawyer is then
A lawyer is expensive.
Yes.
No, it's not. It's not. That doesn't actually, to be honest, help, because if you get a lawyer, they're in the UK. They only know UK law. So you've got to find one in every single destination that the airline has. Locale.
It's got to be AI solutions
Yeah.
to that, hasn't it?
Can you not do your contracts based on government on?
You can use governing law for the contracts, but it doesn't mean the data protection law is governed by government law. So it doesn't unfortunately work like that. So you've got to try and standardise it between the airline and their destinations and where they are based and where they're flying. But then usually the airline that's themselves, the governing airline, would have its own standardised rules that you have to try and abide by. So they hopefully give you their data protection policy to work with. But often they are actually customising their privacy policy in terms of conditions for us, so that we're in there at the bottom to make sure it's all okay.
Sure.
So yes.
And do you have any options of using AI?
I use AI for a lot of our contracting stuff.
Yeah.
Or I don't.
Problem is, you still got to check.
But there's, I mean, see, you can't go to a lawyer for all the commercial stuff, because if you do, they typically hand it back to you and say, look, I'm not doing anything in the commercial stuff.
Yeah.
Come back to me when you've decided what you want in it, and I will then put it into the legal terms. Well, that's the easy part. So I can use the AI for being like, look, I want to put this in it, tell me how it's supposed to sound. But so you can do that, but actual data protection agreements and stuff, it's a bit risky. Still do it, but
Yes, GDPR is not a friend to business, really.
And then once you've got a contract, you still have to implement it as well.
Yeah.
Deletion policies and all that kind of thing. Sure.
Are we done with number 4? So, final question then. Operational cadence, which is the rhythm of business. So, in a larger corporate, you'd be having, there'd be a monthly or a quarterly board meeting, and then there would be a relay of information upwards and downwards around that. In a smaller business, it tends to happen, over a coffee or whatever. But is there any rhythm to your business? Are you producing a set of figures that everybody's aware of? Just, high level, what's the performance? Do you have management meetings? Are you checking in with individual staff? Do they know what's expected of them? So they're having like a weekly one-to-one or a monthly one-to-one or wherever it is. Often in a small team, that can become very informal, and that's fine. But sometimes people don't work in that way, and they need a little bit more structure, and they need to know when they're going to get that one-on-one time. Or, a chat over a coffee is not taken as seriously, maybe. So, what's the rhythm? Is there gaps there? Do people understand what the priorities and accountabilities are? And how has that been communicated?
I think having minutes and meetings and action trackers
Yes.
and lots of things like that would stop issues, because there are lots of meetings and
Then nothing
things
happens.
discussed, but then there's no record of it, or
Yeah.
who is responsible for doing what. So,
And there's so much going on, and there's so many tools that we could use for those sort of things. So it's just about kind of nailing down what are we going to do, what we're going to stick with, and everybody signing up to it. It's nothing worse than an ineffective meeting. Spending lots of time chatting about stuff.
Meetings, plan meetings.
Uh,
Meetings to plan meetings.
yes. And everyone's got attention issues. We've all got so much going on. You've got things pinging, your phone's pinging, your emails pinging, your watch is pinging.
That's just the discipline of meetings. They're just having a formal agenda to start off with, proper timekeeping. And then your minutes after, so that there's no...
But also tracking the tasks and the
Yeah.
actions, who's doing what, when's it expected by, and actually going back to that, keeping people accountable to it.
Yeah.
The difficulty is the dealing with factors out of your control. When you work with it, you might not have contracts. But
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one. Struggling to see how I could control them.
You don't have visibility as well, a lot of the time.
So you don't know what their priorities are. Yeah.
So I'm in the construction industry, so I'm reliant on a notoriously difficult industry in terms of time management and weather and
How do you manage that?
it's very difficult. So how I manage it is I have to have about 30% more work than I can handle, so that at any given time
You can slot stuff in.
I can slot stuff in. So if I'm waiting on the planning department, I slot something else in. The problem is that every now and then 100% need my attention. I mean, there's just no sleep. And that's the only solution I found. So
That's quite testing, isn't it?
yeah.
Seasonal and there's all sorts of challenges to go with that.
Weather dependent. Yeah.
Outside
A lot of it, it's also when you're not the contracting party, you're representing the contracting party, so you don't necessarily have the authority to implement it. Or if you can advise and say, make sure your contracts are suitable up front. But if the client doesn't want to do that, you're going, well, then that's what you have to. You just have to kind of make them aware, manage expectations at the beginning. To go if this, then that, and if they understand it, then it is what it is.
Yeah. So it's more of an influence situation rather than a power. You can't exert power. You haven't got any, but it's all a case of relationships, I suppose. And
that's very much the case. Yeah.
There's only limited suppliers on certain things, and they know that.
But probably the hardest part of the business is that reliant on contractors, engineers, all sorts of others working for the same client, but they don't have a contract with us, so we can't enforce what they do. And obviously
And you can't put a contract and can't put an agreement of some description.
recommend to the client
A working
contracts that
okay.
they would have in place. But for instance, there can never be a contract with the planning department or with building control.
Yeah.
Or the shipping of materials would be out of your control.
Sometimes the clients just prefer more informal relationships because they've under the impression that they're going to get a better deal with the builder or whoever else. And realize much later on in the process that there's a reason that they wanted an informal relationship.
Yeah.
In their eyes.
Anybody else want to share anything on that? Okay. Hopefully you got some useful insights on there then. So I'm going to ask you, you'll see there's some other questions there. So these are really to pressure test, and these will help you work out what is the real priority. So first one is, if demand doubled tomorrow, what would break first? And this usually tells the story, really, is what's your big problem that you need to solve? The answer is usually me as a founder. Before anybody shouts at her. And what parts of the business depend most on you personally? Or if you're not the founder, depends on the founder. And what problem do you keep solving repeatedly?
That's yeah.
So a lot of hires get made to solve structural gaps rather than an actual hiring gap. So do you find that, especially in startups, that people, you've got a legal issue, so you hire a lawyer, but it's not necessarily that. It could be an operational issue. It's the fact that you're not following a process, you're not doing the same thing over and over again, and you haven't established that. And it won't get any better by hiring a lawyer unless they say, we need a process, which they're unlikely to do. If the same problem keeps coming up and up and again, there's usually a structural issue. Yeah, I mean, there's problems in all businesses that you'll probably never solve.
Yeah.
But it's about identifying the ones that you can solve, that can, help you grow quicker.
Make the most difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Like your problem that you were discussing, it's part of the structure of the sector that you work in, isn't it? I'm not sure that's solvable, but I suppose you've just got to work as best round it as possible.
A lot of it comes down to managing expectations of your clients as well.
Yeah.
Saying this is the situation, this is the relative situation. We will aim for this.
I've got a
It's likely to end up at that. At worst case, it'll be that.
Yes. Yeah. Being transparent about it.
Yes. Because nothing worse than having that accountability without authority. You can't.
You can't be held accountable for something that you're not in control of, can you? No.
Yeah.
So what we need to identify now is what matters most as a priority, so prioritization. So out of those answers, what do you think is the most fragile workflow or non-existent workflow that can be solved, and aim to document one process and define your minimum metrics if you haven't got them? And then perhaps move on months 2 and 3 to start clarifying ownership and decision rights if you haven't got those boundaries in place. Trying to introduce more rhythm. And then review where you are and continue tightening up. Does anybody want to share their observations? What have you come up with as your biggest issue, priority?
Sometimes the challenge is understanding that it'll take time and effort to put the processes in place.
Yes.
And that is going to be costly to do. But it'll save in the long run. It'll have better.
Yeah. That's always the argument. We don't have time to do it.
Yeah.
We know it needs to be done. We don't have time to do it. That's always the balancing, because, at the end of the day, it will cost you dearly if you don't put it in place. Yeah. Not everything. You don't have to process for everything, but there are certain things that you really you need a contract in place for, or a process, or a metric, or whatever it is, that is going to become problematic at some point. And then you'll wish you spent the half a day or whatever it was to solve it. It's about deciding what those things are.
Yeah.
Invest the time in.
Sometimes just the sheer amount of time, for me certainly, procrastinating, not doing the things. I'd be much better just doing it and leaving it done.
Or you can get some help.
Yeah.
Someone must have a real juicy one. A lot of this is about removing or shifting dependency on founder, because that is the way that you scale a business. If it's all about the founder, then it will never scale. They can certainly be the talking head, as it were, and the front man and the representative, and the brand even. But if you haven't got the operations and the people behind, and they know what they're doing, then that will never work.
There's 2 issues that we're having. So context, we're a software startup in aviation, so
Yeah.
we're about 12 people, and I suppose there's two parts to this. One of them, at least from the commercial side of things, obviously there's not enough time ever in my day to be doing. We've automated in parts of our sales stuff so that we know what the problem is now. Okay, we're not following the airlines quick enough because something always gets in the way, or there's a contract to do, or there's an airline further on the pipeline. So the sort of base pipeline is the sort of base, start of the pipeline is just not being done, not being followed with. Now, I know that's a problem because we built systems to be able to actually acknowledge the fact that it's a problem and keep telling me that it's a problem. 80 people need following up today and they're overdue, and that grows to about 150 people, and then I finally decide to do something about it. Problem is, okay, now I've got CRM. The software for that, to be able to do the follow-ups and stuff for me, does exist. It's not good enough. So it's actually better for me to do it manually because
It's too automated.
because the clients are so
flat,
the clients are too high value that they're not worth risking not doing it myself. So then it just gets left. And this is one of the things that I'm doing now, because you use an automation software, it's great, but they don't. It's clearly a cold email or an automated software doing it for you.
Yeah, you can't risk it.
Rely on that. Yeah. So,
But what you could do is have, and I'm sure you have got this, is template replies that you base it on, that you're adjusting. Make
I suppose to do it on time every time would take a day or two every 2 weeks. It's not.
And are you doing all the selling?
So that's the same as me, yeah.
So you're completely
And I mean,
responsible.
we hired somebody for sales and marketing, but they ended up doing a different part of the business, which is suppliers. So.
Okay.
And I mean, we're hiring a firm as an associate now, which then ends up doing is like the spare pair of hands. But being able to train them to the point where they are now going to be doing it as well as you would do it, it's also, I think that's going to be the next problem. We've hired someone to do a job, and I know that I could do a better job. Am I willing?
And I know this is going to hurt, but you do need to start.
I know.
Your sales process down.
Yeah.
Even if, I get, because they're buying you, absolutely. They're buying, what you're offering, your personality and the way you're presenting completely. But at some point, you are going to want a sales team.
Yeah.
And now's as time as good as any to start documenting what that process is. And in fact, trying to codify what it is that you bring to that conversation. What is it about your values? What is it about the principles of your business? What do you stand for? What are you saying in the meeting that is getting that sale? Because that's all pulled into your marketing piece. That's your culture piece. That's your your mission and your vision and your values. And it can't just stay in your head, because it will only be you that's doing that after. Because what happens is the organisation will get very good, but you've got this circle of people around you now that get it. They're in on it. They understand what you're doing and what you stand for. The next outer layer going to be a little bit further away from it. And the next outer layer don't even know it exists.
Really.
So whilst these things sound like, a bit flimsy, when you've got values up on the wall and what have you, but actually when you do it properly and you're actually living and breathing that, it's a crucial part of the business, because it's what you set up. It's how you started. It's your vision. You know this already.
Yeah, trying to quantify it is, I suppose what's next.
That trust as well, isn't it? Having the trust,
Of course.
But if you've got someone good and the first couple of months they're shadowing you and sitting in with all your meetings. And it doesn't take long to build up that.
There's also something to that. You need to be the one introducing. If you get more people working with you, then you have to introduce them to your clients.
Yes.
Otherwise, they will never buy.
Oh, absolutely.
The person you say.
Yeah. So like Joanne said, you take them along to the meetings. You get them to sit in. You see, they witness how you do things, how you speak. The way you're the way you're building that relationship, and then that's what you expect from them. But you know, you give them some sort of codified structure around that as well. But
I
yeah,
also imagine if the first people you take on with you around your business are not necessarily they've got the same people and skills you need in year two.
completely.
So you end up keeping people on that you should really be let go. But they
Or
were there-
moved into a different role.
Yeah, or you know, they were there from the start and you think
Yeah, and you feel attached to them because you feel that they gave you loyalty, and you know, they helped you when things were bad and the pay was crap and all of those things. But yeah, it's brutal.
That's
But
why
there might be a different
KPIs
role.
that.
Might be a different role. for them.
Then when you go through KPIs, then it's, you know, you
It's a
can
lot
establish
more-
either where do I need to develop them, what opportunities have I got to develop, and if they don't step up, it's a data-driven decision. You kind of end up, we've done this, I've done that. You can rationalise it, justify it, you to go.
As long as you're made aware of it as well.
This is where a lot of founders get into when they very first start, and they give ownership they give equity to someone, a trusted person, a partner, a brother, or whatever it is. And then 2 years down the line, they're actually a nightmare, or they're a problem in the business, or they're not doing anything. And I've seen so many people do that. And you know, if you've not, hopefully you've not done it already, but don't give equity away easily to people around you, because it should be earned, really. I know sometimes it's easier said than done, because you've got to start somewhere.
I was about to say at lockdowns, we actually gave the heads of department equity,
Yeah.
just as an incentive that they were then part of the business and they wanted the business to grow.
Yeah.
So we were lucky it worked.
That's fair enough. I'm not saying don't give equity away,
Sure.
but just be really careful about who you give it to, not just because you were there,
Yeah.
not just because you were in the room at the beginning.
Yeah, it was discussed about giving the whole staff. We decided no,
Yeah.
just the heads of department, because then they would have to push their teams,
Mhm.
not push, but lead their teams, because they were going to.
Yeah. And that's good.
Yeah.
Get people bought in.
Yeah. I suppose one of the things we've done is vesting as well. So that you don't have to actually give it to them straight away.
Yes.
You can earn it over time.
Yeah.
That's been super helpful for people that we've had to get rid of in the first.
Or you get share, or you give share options or whatever.
Well, yeah,
So-
same thing. Share options on vesting. Vested share options.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm hoping that was in some way useful at highlighting where some challenges may be for you to solve. You know, this is about scalable operations, you know, which is a polite way of saying moving from your business being held together with sticky tape, some heroic individuals and a lot of WhatsApp messages. But that is about us, really.
Thank you
I think
very much.
it's really about you deciding how you move forward with that information. And if you want any more help or you want to discuss it further, let me know.
Thank you
very much.
I'm sorry that you had to come and do work.